You're looking at a split screen right now. On one side, David Harvey at his absolute peak, a World Cup hero, the unshakable wall behind one of England's greatest ever teams. On the other side, the words rock bottom flash across the screen. His life after football has been called tragic, sad, forgotten. But here's the thing that nobody tells you about David Harvey. The man who walked away from glory didn't fall into darkness. He found something most elite athletes never discover. He found peace, and the story of how he got there challenges everything we think we know about success. David Harvey was born in Leeds on 7th of February 1948, making him 77 years old today. Before Don Revie ever signed him, Harvey worked in a stylo shoe factory, living the typical working-class life of footballers from that generation. When he joined Leeds United as a professional in February 1965, he entered a world of impossible pressure and relentless competition. For years, he served as the club's reserve goalkeeper, watching from the sidelines during the late 60s and early 70s when Leeds dominated English football. He was on the bench for trophy after trophy: the League Cup and Fairs Cup in 1968, the League Championship in 1969, another Fairs Cup in 1971. He featured 4 times in each of those successful Fairs Cup campaigns, but mostly he waited. His chance came in dramatic fashion in 1972. The first choice keeper, Gary Sprake, had made a crucial error in the 1970 FA Cup final. By the 1971 and 72 season, when Sprake suffered a knee injury before the FA Cup final against Arsenal, Harvey got his moment. Leeds won that final 1-0. From that day forward, Harvey was no longer the reserve. He was the man between the posts for one of the most demanding teams in world football. As the starting goalkeeper, he became integral to Leeds United's League Championship victory in 1911. His consistency earned him 16 caps for Scotland between 1972 and 1976. But the pinnacle came at the 1974 FIFA World Cup, where he made 3 appearances and was voted goalkeeper of the tournament. On the field, teammates and opponents alike knew him as an unshakable presence who delivered results without demanding the spotlight. He never shouted for attention, he just did the work. But here's what you need to understand about that era. This was the 1970s, a decade before television rights and the Premier League transformed football into a pathway to generational wealth. Despite being an international elite player and a champion, the financial rewards weren't enough to guarantee a comfortable retirement. Unlike modern superstars who can live off their playing days forever, Harvey would need to work civilian jobs later in life. That economic reality shapes everything that comes next, and it's the reason so many fans look at his later years and see tragedy when they should see something else entirely. Then came the cruelest twist of fate. At the start of the 1974-75 season, Harvey was involved in a devastating car crash. The physical trauma was severe enough to sideline him for the entire remainder of the season, and that season ended with the match that mattered most: the 1975 European Cup final, the crowning ambition of the Don Revie era, the biggest match of Harvey's life. He had to watch it from behind glass, separated from his teammates at their defining moment. Leeds lost. The psychological cost of that absence created a wound that never fully healed. It was a historical footnote of deep personal regret. That car crash wasn't an isolated incident either. Throughout his life, Harvey cheated death 3 times. Later in his career, while playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps, he suffered a second car crash. This one was described as career-bending, reportedly causing a measurable slowing of his reflexes. The cumulative physical trauma, combined with the immense pressure of playing goalkeeper at the highest level, naturally created psychological stress and anxiety. In the 70s, sports psychology didn't exist as we know it today. There was virtually no structured mental health support for professional athletes dealing with trauma and performance degradation. Harvey had to internalize everything. That need for a stress-free psychological environment later in life wasn't weakness, it was survival. After leaving Leeds, Harvey played for several clubs: Vancouver Whitecaps, Partick Thistle, Bradford City under his former teammate Trevor Cherry, Morton, non-league sides like Whitby Town and Harrogate Town. He retired from playing in 1987 at age 37. Despite the quiet conclusion to his playing days, he did receive some recognition, including a testimonial match in 1980 between Leeds United and the Vancouver Whitecaps. But retirement meant facing an immediate necessity. he needed a second career. His first civilian job was managing a public house near York at Stamford Bridge. For many retired footballers, running a pub provides a social hub, a business model that mimics the collective nature of the dressing room. But Harvey made a striking change soon after. He became a postman, working at a sorting office and delivering letters. Now, this is where most people see the story as sad. A World Cup hero delivering mail. But listen to what Harvey himself said about it. The sorting office atmosphere was like a dressing room. Think about what that statement reveals about what truly brings someone joy. After spending your whole life finding meaning in structure, routine, and team spirit, finding that same feeling doesn't make you desperate. It makes you wise. You've reached the moment in the script where you might be reconsidering what success actually means. So here's what I want you to do. Down in the comments, tell me about a time you found happiness in an unexpected place. A simple job that brought you peace. A quiet routine that made you feel whole. And if this story is making you think differently about fame and contentment, hit that subscribe button. Because there are more stories like this one that deserve to be told properly. Harvey's postman role wasn't about money. It was a profound search for institutionalized routine, structured physical activity, and low-pressure camaraderie. The job provided a defined structure and team environment, offering an emotional replacement for what he'd lost when he left elite football. Moving away from pub management, which was highly social and potentially high stress, toward the routine service of postal delivery showed an increasing psychological need for reduced social pressure and greater personal space. The economic context matters here too. While football had been good to him and eventually allowed him to fund a secluded lifestyle, it didn't provide the lifetime financial independence common among contemporary players. The need to work well into his middle years reflected the economic differences between the pre-Premier League and post-Premier League eras. This is what drives the popular misinterpretation of his life as one of financial hardship. But the most definitive counter-argument to any claim of sadness comes in 1994. Harvey relocated with his second wife, June, and their 5 children to the remote island of Sanday in Scotland's Orkney Islands. This was an extreme move toward isolation, deliberately designed to create a completely stress-free life. The property reflected this goal perfectly. A 150-year-old stone cottage situated on 10 acres of farmland where they engaged in self-sufficient living, tending to cattle, pigs, sheep, and poultry. Harvey was candid that his ambition, long suppressed since taking that job in the shoe factory at age 15, was to be a horticulturalist. The Orcadian life provided the means to fulfill that enduring dream. Harvey himself gave the ultimate evaluation of his chosen lifestyle. Although one cannot make a full living from 10 acres, he said, the great advantage was that the life was totally stress-free. That direct statement demolishes any perception of tragedy. The psychological necessity of this move was the final resolution to accumulated stresses from a high-pressure career and repeated personal trauma. The choice to live on Sanday acted as both a geographical and psychological shield, ensuring maximum distance from the professional football world. It demonstrated profound indifference to traditional markers of sporting legacy like media commentary or punditry. While on Orkney, he continued working as a postman, reiterating his established preference for stable, routine employment over the unpredictable and emotionally demanding world of football coaching or media work. Life brings challenges regardless of where you live. On Christmas Eve 2009, Harvey suffered a heart attack, but he successfully recovered, adding yet another chapter to a life defined by resilience. This was the 3rd time he'd cheated death. The profound isolation of Sanday served a vital psychological function for 26 years, but eventually it yielded to the pull of familial connection. In July 2020, Harvey relocated from Orkney to Lochmaben near Dumfries and Galloway. The explicit motivation was the need for greater accessibility to his grandchildren compared to the extreme distance of the Orkney Islands. This decision demonstrated a critical developmental shift. While obscurity and stress reduction defined his middle age, familial relationships and active participation as a grandfather became the highest priority in his later years. Today, at 77, David Harvey maintains the low profile he established decades ago. His life continues to be characterized by purposeful familial connection and successful adaptation to retirement. He remains largely absent from conventional media outlets, confirming a resilient commitment to privacy. The perception of sadness doesn't come from verifiable financial distress or psychological failure. It comes from cultural expectations that a player of his status must maintain a public presence or accumulate modern wealth. His 26-year decision to prioritise self-sufficiency and emotional well-being on Orkney represents successful and resilient transition. The relocation to Lochmaben in 2020, motivated by positive desire to be closer to grandchildren, confirms a trajectory of purposeful adaptation and familial engagement following recovery from a heart attack. David Harvey's legacy is defined by quiet competence. He was a hero who never shouted for attention, making him a prime example of the unsung football legend. While his obscurity generates melancholy among those who note there are no statues, no legacy reels, no hall of fame, his enduring memory is one earned through silent dependability rather than calculated self-promotion. The most significant victory of David Harvey's later life was securing the deep contentment and privacy that high-stakes public professionalism inevitably denied him. His story isn't tragic, it's triumphant in ways we rarely recognise.